Welcome back to Big Sky Buckets. I'm Big Sky, and today we're going to continue our off-season 24 power rankings going into the 2025 NBA season. We're going to kick it off with two new tiers. I procrastinated a little bit here. It's October 21st, and the season begins October 22nd. So we're going to bang through some videos today. This one's going to come out today, and then tomorrow will be the final two teams, the final tier, plus season award predictions. And yeah, let's just jump into it. So the first tier we're going to talk about here is the great and unique teams. Each of these teams has changed from what they were last year, somewhere between marginal changes to very big changes. And we're going to start number 8, fourth in the East. The Philadelphia 76ers, who have changed dramatically. They added Paul George, they got rid of a lot of their depth, and they brought in some guys that should be helpful, but, when you're paying three different guys max contract money, all you're going to get in between are pretty much minimum level guys. And look, I've been kind of critical of the big three model in today's NBA. However, this one does seem to work the way that you would want a big three to work. You have a point guard, shooting guard, kind of, he's a combo guard, but can play the primary guard position. You have a shooting guard, small forward combo in Paul George, so he plays the wing. And then, of course, you have Joel Embiid at the center. And he is one of the best regular season players in the game, one of the best I've ever seen, despite, the free throw grifting can be annoying, but also at the same time, you do have to double team him every single time he plays. And what we saw last year, before I get into that, the quick tangent, the reason I'm knocking him down is Joel Embiid basically saying he may never play back-to-backs ever again. That being inferred with Paul George as well. So either Paul George and Tyrese Maxey will play one game, and then Joel Embiid and Tyrese Maxey will play the next, or vice versa. It doesn't really matter there. That should still get them wins, because with just Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid and a bunch of role players last year, before Joel Embiid's injury, they were just steamrolling a lot of different teams, and I do think they can still do that. Knocking them down to fourth in the East is just kind of being precautious in terms of still some of these games that Joel Embiid isn't playing, they should still lose. I don't know if Paul George, Tyrese Maxey against some of the best teams in the NBA in case they have to play, the Boston Celtics on a back-to-back, or the Knicks on a back-to-back, or even the Bucks, the Cavs, etc., the Magic. Those games are going to be hard. Like I said, 2 through 7 in the East is really stacked, surprisingly stacked, honestly, and they're all going to be very competitive games. So I just have to knock them down a little bit there, but collectively, this team should still be very good. And so being number 8 here and fourth in the East is no knock. It's just simply not being instilled with confidence here in terms of not playing in basically back-to-backs. And then also in the preseason, Joel Embiid didn't play, which is fine. I get it. Paul George gets injured by hyperextending his knee against the Hawks. Then against the Magic, Tyrese Maxey gets a right thumb contusion or something like that. Not the worst injuries in the world, but the vibes there just kind of like injuries already. Don't love that. So 8th here, 4th in the East. Could be higher, could be lower, but I'll just go with being at number 8. Sounds pretty reasonable for a team that should still be, when fully employing Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid, they should still be basically a juggernaut in the regular season. They just may not be that every single game because of what we just talked about. Coming in at number 7, third in the East. And again, wanted to have these guys at 4th. I thought this was a hot take. It's even hotter now. I have the Orlando Magic. Again, circumstance of the 76ers basically setting themselves up to be better in the playoffs by being able to rest Joel Embiid a little bit more and hopefully avoid getting injured in regular season. One of the Pacers or the Magic is where I was going to have them, basically in this fourth in the East, but I guess now third in the East spot. They're mirror images of themselves. The Pacers are not good at defense. The Magic are not great at offense. But at least what the Magic have done is they've put themselves in a position to get marginally better. Even if they're an average offensive team, their defense was so good last year. I just think I'm banking on Paolo, Franz, Jalen Suggs to all develop. I'm banking on shooting from KCP to genuinely matter, to have really strong defenders across the board with this team, and then certain pieces like if Anthony Black is even like can remotely shoot it and his playmaking is viable, this team can definitely take a leap. You can see playmaking from all over the board, from Franz to Paulo. If Anthony Black is something there, even a little bit of a Jalen Suggs leap in terms of playmaking. And you draft Tristan da Silva, who I think will get minutes this year and will be an actual impactful rookie simply because he's a little bit older and, his ceiling is, to me, a role player. So I thought it was a weird pick by them, but also looking back now, I can actively say just drafting wing players that are older is a great way to get them involved in a team that wants to keep getting better than what they were last year. I think this is a 50-win team, just like with the 76ers. This is my hot take. I just think that all the hype around this team is warranted, and I think they will take that leap. I think Paulo will be an All-NBA player this year. Maybe he'll be All-NBA second team or third team, but I still think he will end up being there. I think Franz, he may not go back to how great he was shooting the ball in this first couple of years, but I think it'll be significantly better than what it was last year. And therefore, there's just a lot to be optimistic about this team. Still think they'll be a top 5 defense. I think they'll be an average level offense because I think they'll marginally get better there. And so I just really like this team to win regular season games. We'll see what happens in the playoffs, but I'm a believer in this Magic team. I could get burned here. I get it. But you wouldn't watch these if I didn't have at least one hot take, and this is my scorching hot take here. The Magic will be top 3 in the East, coming at number 7, and we're going to move on to number 6. I have the Minnesota Timberwolves, and a lot like what I said for the Magic, the Wolves will still have a better defense. I mean, just employing Rudy Gobert gives you a floor of like a top 5 defense. I think moving off of Cat was less than ideal, but the more I think about it, the more I'm starting to see something of a vision. I think it will be clunky offensively for a little bit with Julius Randle. I do think he helps with the playmaking there because as Mike Conley ages, you have no idea when he's going to regress because sometimes it just happens. We talked last time about Brook Lopez. Sometimes it just randomly happens. Like you just get to that age, you start to really slow down, and all of a sudden what you were banking on originally with Mike Conley, his playmaking is so important for this team. For the Bucks, Brook Lopez's rim protection was so important for that team. You just have to actively get ahead of that. And now Julius Randle, he may not be a core piece for this team in the long run. But right now, you have Chris Finch, who's one of the more creative offensive head coaches in the league. He has been an assistant head coach in New Orleans when Julius Randle was there, so he at least has some understanding of how to use him now. You're definitely putting Anthony Edwards in a position to be, hey, show us you're the guy. The guy that we see in the playoffs, we want you to be him consistently during the regular season. Karl Anthony Towns isn't here to save you every other game that you might just not have the gas or just are not consistent enough. You need to show us you are the guy. And then the depth is better on this team. I will say that. You lose definitely a better player. But having Dante DiVincenzo come off the bench or even start certain games is going to be very helpful. Despite the weird fit issues with Julius Randle, I still think he can help you win regular season games. The playoffs are a completely different discussion because I'm one of the lower. I'm pretty damn low on Julius Randle. But now you got Naz Reid coming off the bench as well. Like, this is starting to look like a pretty deep team in terms of the um, 1 through 9, most likely. You have, look, the way I'd see it is if this is still a top 5 defense, because Rudy is here, if you see a little bit of improvement from the regression that Jaden McDaniels had in the 3-ball department last year, that's much better. Being able to have lineup flexibility with possibly having Dante DiVincenzo play the point could be really interesting. I think this will be a unique and fun team to watch. I think it might take them a little bit, which is why if they're over under from like the number of games they won last year was 56, I would probably take the under there. But like, I still think there's reason to believe that this team will be very good, which is why I have them 6 in the power rankings and 4th in the West. I don't know. Just I think there's a lot of reasons to believe in this team being really good in the regular season. I think we'll see what happens with this team because there's a lot of speculation that Tim Conley, the president of operations in Minnesota, might be trying to move Julius Randle by the deadline. We'll see what happens there. But I see where the optimism and the pessimism for this team comes in. I just think try and even it out. Losing Cat hurts the offense, but the defense should still be relatively the same there. So that's where I'm at with this team. Moving on to the next tier. Juggernauts of the regular season. These guys are going to win you regular season games for a wide variety of reasons. But coming in at number 5, third in the West, the Denver Nuggets. And simply because Nikola Jokic is employed on this team. I still wouldn't be surprised if he finds a way to win MVP again. I really wouldn't be surprised. I don't think he will. Just heads up. I don't think he'll win MVP again. But in terms of a guaranteed carry job in the regular season, that's what Jokic gives you. He will take some dog shit teams, some really dog shit teams, and take them to a top 4 team in the West. In the West, a very competitive place to be in general. There's going to be issues with losing KCP, but I don't think those issues necessarily are. I think they're a little bit overblown for the regular season. For the playoffs, I think people are right. Losing KCP is huge. But Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, Michael Porter Jr., and Nikola Jokic collectively, together, playing together, they'll win you 50-plus games. Whoever's at the 2 guard, don't care. The Russell Westbrook experience could be worse than anticipated. I just think playing with Jokic makes you a better player. Therefore, I think this team is a top 5 team in the NBA. I think there's better teams in the West. I think there's more loaded teams in the West. I think there's, a team or 2 left in the East that are just simply better from either a starting 5 perspective or starting 5 and depth perspective. But I do think it's really hard to be super down on the Nuggets. I think you want to have them as like a top 10 team in the NBA. That's cool. But anything less is kind of like ridiculous because the best player in the world, in my opinion, in Nikola Jokic, still resides in Denver. He doesn't get injured. He plays over 70 games every single season, and he's going to carry your team. So I have them here at number 5 and 3rd in the West. Coming in at 3rd in the East, number 4 on this list, the New York Knicks. Simply put, I may not be as high on them in the playoffs simply because I think they're going to be injured because Tom Thibodeau is the head coach and this is his MO, is to run players' knees into the ground. Jalen Brunson, Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, and Karl Anthony Towns, this is going to be a top 5 offense. And they should be an average to above average defensive team because it's a Tom Thibodeau team. The concerns here come from the depth. The depth is not great. I like Deuce McBride, but center position, once Mitchell Robinson comes back, we're going to be back on track. So you might see more of a bumpy start and then they skyrocket. The real concerns here are when Cat goes down, before Mitchell Robinson gets back, things are going to look a little bit hazy. But in terms of a starting five lineup, one of the best in the NBA by far. I see a lot of people have the Knicks up here, and I think it's warranted. I just think they're going to get the ball rolling fast. And I think this is just more of a seamless fit with Karl Anthony Towns here. I'm interested to see how his rim protection is going back to being the primary center and rim protector for this team. But the main thing that really... I've said a bunch of things that are like red flags for other teams, injuries, depth issues, etc. And it's not just the starting five. It's the fact that you have like 3 incredible wing defenders immediately start for you. So even when Cat isn't being a great rim protector, you still have Josh Hart, Mikal Bridges, and OG Anunoby who are going to suffocate offenses. And Jalen Brunson, who for some reason gets away with being like a real heliocentric basketball player, we've seen him be able to carry offenses basically by himself. And now that he has a genuine partner in crime in Karl Anthony Towns, this thing's just going to be an incredible watch. Like I said, there's going to be ups and downs with this team, but I still feel like, wait, did I say third in the East? I'm so sorry. Second in the East. Yeah, I think floor of this team is top 4 team in the East, unless something like if Jalen Brunson goes down, then yeah, this team sucks. But doubtful. I'm just doubtful on that. Yeah, number 4 here, second in the East. And now we go to the top of this tier, a team that really should be in the top 3. But to me, there's 2 teams that are just head and shoulders above. But number 3, number 2 in the West, I have the Dallas Mavericks. Making the finals last year. I think they got better. I have concerns about starting Klay Thompson, who they acquired. But we'll see how that works itself out. I still don't love Jason Kidd as head coach, but whatever. You have Luka Doncic. You have Kyrie Irving. And you have a bunch of tall, athletic wings. And Klay Thompson, who should still be able to play incredibly well playing off of Luka Doncic. Realistically, the best point guard in the league. The guys that they lost and the guys they got back, other than Klay, are all much better defenders other than Derrick Jones Jr. You basically swapped out Josh Green, who is anemic offensively but could play defense, with Quentin Grimes, who should be as good defensively and is not anemic offensively. Derrick Jones Jr. is the one that definitely hurts. But once the Mavericks realize the key to winning, especially in the regular season and then in the playoffs, is like with Derrick Jones Jr., who started for them, Najee Marshall will have to be the starter because they need that really great wing defender to take on some of the hardest assignments in the NBA. And then, of course, Derek Lively, progression should be great. I hope he starts for this team, which means you have Daniel Gafford off the bench, which is great. And PJ Washington had a great year for the Dallas Mavericks last year up until really the finals, but that was against the Celtics. They were truly incredible, and I underrated them in a lot of aspects. As you'll see in a little bit, that's not what's going to happen here. Look, I just have a hard time believing this is the year for the Mavericks to be a top 2 team in the West. They have the depth for it. They have the talent for it. Collectively, they should have the offense and defense. They should be top 10 in both. Unless somehow there's like a finals hangover and because Luka has gotten a taste for the finals, he just, for some reason, stops being as competitive as he is, because he is extremely competitive and just takes the regular season not seriously, then yeah, there's an easy way for this team to be more top 10 than top 5. I'd rather just give them credit. The teams, these top three, I want to give them credit. These top five teams, I want to give them credit. And I think Dallas deserves this. They've retained a lot of talent. They've gotten new talent. And I think the turnover of talent in general is a net positive for them. My biggest concern is simply starting Clay, where you have Luka, Kyrie, and Clay during the regular season. The backcourt plus the three position, that defense is just going to be really rough. I know Clay he'll be able to have good moments of defense, but he's just not the same guy anymore. So I think you want to prioritize having defensive players around Luka and Kyrie, because Luka does such a great job of raising the floor of everyone he plays with. So that's my take on that. Thank you guys for watching, listening. Subscribe, like, comment. I'd really appreciate the support, and I will see you guys next time. Peace.